Yo, what's good, y'all? It's your boy Joey back at it again, and today we got new Epstein files just dropped by Voidzilla. Oh boy, man, it's gonna be a long reaction, boy. I tell you that. But you know, I see y'all know what the deal is, man. Follow me on both Jays here and Jays.the.one. Without further ado, let's get right into it.
Today we're talking about the 20,000 Epstein files.
20,000. That is a lot, boy. I ain't gonna lie. We just gonna be munching and crunching, bro. I ain't gonna. But we got chips, boy. We got something. We got something to drink. Some sweet tea. Oh boy, Oh yeah.
It got released. It's a complicated picture involving a lot of powerful people. But let me just say right up front, this is an ongoing story. There's a lot that's going to be released in the coming days. So just understand we're going to do our best to explain what has been happening because this story has been full of twists and turns. It starts with the Democrats releasing 3 emails from the Jeffrey Epstein estate. One says that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. A victim spent hours at my house with him. Another says the victim, Mar-a-Lago, Trump says he asked me to resign. Never a member ever, Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine Maxwell to stop. And then the third email is from Michael Wolff talking about Jeffrey Epstein's association with Trump, saying you can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, or if it looks like he really could win, you could save him generating a debt. Basically implying the idea that Epstein would have some kind of compromising information on Trump. But that
that boy had them Epstein files, boy. I ain't gonna lie, bro. Damn near, it looked like 85 to 90% of the people in power, it was part of them Epstein situation. That's wild.
It's just the start of it, because then after that, the GOP came out swinging and they said Democrats whine about releasing the files, but they only cherry pick when they have them to generate clickbait. You deserve the full truth. And then they released over 20,000 files. Some of it had to do with Trump, some of it didn't. Importantly, 2 of the emails that were in there were some of the ones that the Democrats released, except they were unredacted in the GOP copy. And these lack of redactions are obviously very intentional. So we see first, I want you to realize the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. And then it says, Virginia spent hours at my house with him. Now that name is really important because it's Virginia Giuffre. She was the Prince Andrew accuser, but importantly, she did not accuse Trump, rather saying that he couldn't have been friendlier. This obviously is one of the main reasons the GOP appears to have released this, because in part, they're implying that, hey, if you release this redacted, people are going to speculate who this victim was, thinking that there was something that happened, but actually the person that's in there didn't accuse Trump of something illegal. And so this is sort of the implication here with the Democrats saying, well, you're unredacting a victim's name. So that's been the battle there. Specifically, the second email, by the way, just further confirms it. It says blank worked at Mar-a-Lago. She was one of the ones that accused Prince Andrew. In the Democrat copy, all of that was redacted because, of course, it gives away the fact that we are talking about, once again, Virginia Giuffre. Also, in these emails released by the Republicans, it says blank worked at Mar-a-Lago. Trump knew of it, came to my house many times. He never got a massage. That's straight from Jeffrey Epstein clearing him up.
Yeah, bro. Trump and Epstein, they buddies, bro. So I ain't gonna lie. When Trump and his party said, if we become the president, we become the ruling party, we will release the files. And when he won, that was a terrible move. I ain't gonna lie, because like, if you win, now you gotta release all the files, and you know Trump and Epstein is like locked in for real. So I don't know why he made this a promise that he was gonna release the files and expose, like, nigga, you the main nigga in the files. you his partner in crime. You that nigga homeboy, boy. Like, what are we talking about?
Of a massage, which obviously is the one person you most don't want to get a massage from. So honestly,
you
that
might
is
massage and go a little too low. Hell no.
Good for him, which is obviously why they released it. Begging the question why they didn't release it sooner. Maybe it's because they didn't want people to know that Trump knew about the girls. Now, one thing I want to talk about is the fact that Epstein is saying, hey, look, Trump publicly said that it was me that he asked to stop, but actually it was Ghislaine that he asked to stop. And my question here is, if it is Maxwell that was the one who poached Virginia Giuffre from Mar-a-Lago and then trafficked her, then why is she getting so much special treatment? I mean, that is the part where the Republicans don't look good at all. I mean, what is going on with Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted sex offender, trying to get a pardon getting Todd Blanche to give her a softball interview, and then she immediately gets preferential treatment. Look, we've been over the fact that she's at basically a special prison in Bryan, Texas, where...
Yeah, her ass was getting them kids to those places, bro. That's like... That shit dead ass wild, bro. Keep that ass locked up. If she in Prel, bro, keep that ass locked up, bro. She was motherfucking getting them kids, kidnapping the little kids, and keep her ass in jail, my nigga. I ain't gonna lie.
Normally, someone of her status wouldn't be allowed to go to because it's too nice, it's too low security. But in addition to that, new reports are saying that top officials at Camp Bryan are sick of being Maxwell's bitch. Federal law enforcement staff working at the camp have been waiting on Maxwell hand and foot, including, by the way, reportedly she's been given a puppy as part of the preferential treatment she's been receiving.
Bro, her ass did some heinous shit, and she getting treated like a fucking king, nigga, boy. Y'all seen that Black Suit comic where that nigga Kingpin was reading a book in jail? That nigga had a lush vegetation and all that shit. That's how she living, boy. I ain't gonna lie.
Overwhelmingly, Maxwell has been getting a super nice ride in all of this. This, of course, makes us all wonder, once again, what do they have on Trump? I mean, why treat her like this?
Why treat her like this? Like she ain't do some bottom feeder ass shit. Send her ass to impel down.
Doesn't have something compromising in all of that. It just kind of begs some questions you probably don't want to ask. Also very suspicious is the fact that immediately after this report came out, Trump personally called Rep. Lauren Boebert, urging her to withdraw support for releasing the Epstein files. Bondi, Blanche, and Patel were going to meet today about the Epstein files. This, of course, is furthering the idea the White House has no interest in this story. I think Trump tweeted multiple times today about the Epstein hoax. Again, we've heard that a million times.
Nigga look tired in that photo like a bit, boy. He's sick of this shit.
I think Trump tweeted multiple.
That nigga looks hot, old ass. And then, bro, he look tired, but he look done with this shit. I ain't gonna front.
Times today about the Epstein hoax. Again, we've heard that a million times. And the question is, why are you acting so suspicious if you have nothing to hide, right? If you didn't get the massage, which Epstein says, what are you hiding? Why are you so worried about all this stuff coming out? By the way, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was actually asked about the White House pressuring people to get them not to sign for the release of the Epstein files, and her response was pretty insane.
Why are White House officials then meeting with Representative Boebert in an effort to try and get her to not sign this petition calling for the release of the files?
Doesn't it show transparency that members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress whenever they please? Doesn't that show our level of transparency?
Just show it to release the files, and you want to be the most transparent, release the files, bitch. Release the if you got nothing to hide, you not guilty at all, release the files, bitch. Like dead ass, just release the file. It's like a nigga who his girl think, you know what I'm saying, his girl think he cheating on her, so he's like, babe, can I look through your phone? And he just like, bet. You know what I'm saying? Type shit. Like, you look through it, you ain't find nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's like that. Like, if you know you've done nothing wrong and you in the clear, you would just release the files anyway. But since y'all know y'all are hiding stuff, since y'all know that y'all are doing some, you know what I'm saying, some wild things, some behind the scene things, some out of context ass things, y'all trying to hide it. Y'all know y'all niggas is guilty. Y'all trying to hide it, boy. Y'all not slick.
See, doesn't that show the level of transparency when we are willing to sit down with members of Congress and address their concerns?
It shows transparency to try to go and block files being released on the world's most prolific. But the fact we know about it, that's the transparent part. It's just insane. I mean, that's the kind of...
Bro, they call her Simona Biles, the way she jumping and looping through all these loopholes and extracurricular obstacles to dance around. Like, just release the files. Otherwise, y'all look, this is a terrible, y'all looking guilty as a mug.
We've expected with this story all along. That's been part of what's been so frustrating about all of this. So, look, I want to get back to this story because there's so many people involved here. We're just going to go through one by one. I mean, look, it's a lot more than just Trump. Like, one person that got kind of a weird stray in all of this was the fact that Epstein talked about Hillary doing naughties with Vince. Vince being Vince Foster, a White House counsel. There was a rumor about Clinton and Vince having some kind of affair, and then later Vince was found dead of suicide. And this is where we see Jeffrey Epstein and Michael Wolff's kind of symbiotic relationship. Michael Wolff is a journalist who has been prolific in all of this. Well, I struggle to call him a journalist, actually, because as we'll find, he was more like a PR guy for Epstein. But he was actually asking Epstein and using Epstein for a lot of access to information, because Michael Wolff actually told Jeffrey Epstein, hey, basically, I'm interviewing him this afternoon. Anything you think I should ask? And he's talking about Trump. Epstein replies, do you want to be provocative? Michael Wolff says, job is to get the hard ones in without being ejected from the room. What's the one that pierces through? Jeffrey Epstein basically says, hey, you can do this softball. That's a Hillary problem. He would smile, and then you can ask about his relationship with the Electricians Union and Mar-a-Lago, and out you go. Obviously hinting to the idea that he's going to get kicked out if he asks about more sensitive subjects. Michael Wolff asks about, hey, what's up with Foster? And then he describes what that's all about. And this brings us to Michael Wolff, who I want to spend a little bit of time here on. Although some of you may not know as much about him, you may be less interested in him. I think he's one of sort of the worst looking people in all of this. Actually, after reading these emails.
You talking about like look wise or like actions wise? Because that nigga ugly. I ain't gonna lie, that nigga ugly. That nigga like a DreamWorks Harry Potter character in that bit. Ugly ass nigga, man.
Was that Michael Wolff and Epstein were basically planning how to respond to Epstein being brought up in the context of Trump. Michael Wolff says, I hear CNN is planning to ask Trump about his relationship with you, either on air or in Scrum afterwards. Epstein says, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? That being interesting, because it's like, wait, were they in touch with Trump at this time? Because Trump denied being in contact with Epstein basically since early 2000s. But anyway, if he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you valuable PR or political currency. You can hang him in a way that generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey's a good guy that's gotten a raw deal and is victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in the Trump regime. Now, if it doesn't sound like PR, it might be sounding like blackmail to you. It's like kind of a little bit of both. Michael Wolff is basically conspiring to generate a debt for Jeffrey Epstein from Trump, who is about to become the most powerful person on the planet. So that's really bizarre, because Michael Wolff has positioned himself as sort of this truth teller about Jeffrey Epstein, and he's got all these tapes that he's gonna release showing how close Trump and Epstein were. But it's like, behind the scenes, he was actually kind of running PR for Epstein, which is sort of the worst thing you could have ever done. This is in 2016. Michael Wolff is talking to Epstein about a Patterson book, which later becomes the James Patterson Filthy Rich book. He says basically that would present some time issues if it was released too early. You would not be able to do a competing book or documentary before then. That's not to say it shouldn't be pursued. In a sense, better to know what Patterson's position is and a year from now be able to counter it. In 2016, he's playing like PR, I'm gonna fix your reputation, Jeffrey Epstein. He then says, that being said, if you need an immediate counter to the book, I believe Trump offers an ideal opportunity. It's a chance to make the story about something other than you, while at the same time letting you frame your own story. Also becoming an anti-Trump voice.
You giving that nigga a whole Madden play-by-play book to get his rep up. Boy, that's wild, bro. That nigga dead ass move like a coach talking about some, all right, bro, we need to run this route, right? You need to loop in, do a fadeaway, and I'll throw the ball. Like, he really giving this nigga a play-by-play on how to fix his reputation. That is insane. That is insanity. I ain't gonna lie.
A certain political cover, which you decidedly don't have now. And so again, we get the idea of him kind of scheming to get Epstein cover, which is so bad, because now Michael Wolff is like, oh, we're the guy exposing Trump's connections to Epstein. It's like, buddy, what are your connections to Epstein? Then we have later them discussing a lawsuit against Epstein and Donald Trump, with a woman claiming that she was raped. Michael Wolff responds, well, I guess if there's anyone who can wave this away, it's Donald. Let me know if there's anything I can do. Again, why are you trying to do something for a man accused of these things? It really seems like Michael Wolff was kind of running cover here. Now, I also want to talk about the Prince Andrew Trump scandal that appears to have been brewing here, or at least is implied in the emails. You may see some people say that Epstein met Trump and Prince Andrew back in 2019, which of course would be well after Trump said they had no contact, which would be bad news for Trump. In fact, there's a few things in here which suggest that Epstein had contact with Trump. Of course, we don't know for sure. I'll just present you the evidence we do have. So this is back in 2019, June 3rd. They're talking about London real estate, about how financials are going to leave. Then Epstein says, once they are gone, the monarchy is dependable, saying Prince Andrew and Trump today, too funny. And this is actually the same day that Trump and Andrew are spotted in London, of course, meeting together. Jeffrey Epstein says, recall Prince Andrew's accuser came out of Mar-a-Lago, Virginia Giuffre. Then we have a sender that's blacked out, but I think there's strong evidence that it's Steve Bannon, by the way, just to give you some context. They say, can't believe nobody is making you the connective tissue. So the connective tissue between these two being Epstein. And then Epstein replies, F&B only. Now later, Jeffrey Epstein says, report from London. Donald now thinks he's king. Ivanka a princess. He doesn't need advisors. Bannon says, yep, London trip not good. He had a gleam in his eye. Of course, this hinting at the idea that Epstein was there. If he got a report from London, if he's talking about Prince Andrew and Trump, or that's how people are coming to that conclusion at least. And then we have the thread that makes us know this is Steve Bannon, which is he gives a link where it says Steve Bannon believes Trump obstructed justice. Michael Wolff says, he says BBC crushed him. He should give it up. The book is going to be a stiff. I don't know if he senses that. Epstein replies, unfortunately, I do know his comments have encouraged some to look to you for answers. This all being about an article about Steve Bannon, obviously. And then Steve Bannon says, Burke says, I have zero to worry about. Now, if you don't know who Burke is, he's a lawyer who previously defended Steve Bannon. Epstein then replies, good but unnecessary. Should I call Michael Wolff? Bannon says, what are you going to say to him? He's a wild animal caught in a trap. Epstein says, catch his breath. Bannon says, tell him to lay off me. It's both not working and not helping. Okay, done. Again, this is all in the context of Michael Wolff talking about Steve Bannon, and then he says, hey, tell him to back off. This is furthering the idea that Epstein, Bannon, Michael Wolff, they all had a close relationship, which is mostly public knowledge, but we see exactly how close. Now, in addition to this, I also wanted to note this very strange interaction between these two, where Epstein sends a news article about George Nader being basically caught up in some child pornography charges, and then Bannon says, not cool. Epstein, mandatory minimum 15. Bannon says, MBZ must have coughed him up. How did he get extradited? Could have stayed in UAE forever. Epstein says he was not extradited. He was duped. Bannon, WTF. Epstein, there is his bail hearing today, currently in Brooklyn. Doesn't look good, pre-trial detention. Now, I personally found it strange that they were so concerned about the fate of someone caught up in such horrible charges.
Yeah, such a bad charge. Like, that's not like scamming or robbery or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's like a bad, like, I'm hanging out with a nigga who sells hard crack before I even fathom hanging out with somebody who watches that type of stuff. Like, if I, like, the fact that that's against your name is crazy. Like, how do you eat, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how, like, the fact that that's not a normal charge people get. That's not a normal, like, CP, you have to actually have, like, some type of that stuff on your laptop, your phone, have it down. Like, that's some, like, that's not a normal just allegation people throw out about people. I ain't gonna lie. You're weird, man.
We'll also talk about the Thanksgiving message. This one got a lot of attention, which is that Epstein was going to Thanksgiving, and he was asked, where are you having Thanksgiving? He says, Eva. This lady, Faith Cates, replies, he's such a snooze. Who else is down there? He replies, David Fizzle, Hansen, Trump. And once again, Trump claims that he was not in contact with Jeffrey Epstein after the early 2000s. He said, hey, I cut him off. I realized he was a bad guy.
Nah, you been in contact, bro. You was chilling with that nigga. Y'all was playing Super Smash Bros. Y'all was, you know, drinking the jacuzzi. Like, obviously I'm playing about, you know what I'm saying, the hangout sessions. But y'all was definitely like these, you feel me? Like, there is some, like, remember that letter? They where his handwriting was the exact same, and I'm pretty sure it was like allegedly like it was the same as like a Epstein thing. Yeah, bro. The birthday card, yeah, bro. Y'all was twinning for real. Y'all was homies.
And if Epstein's having Thanksgiving with him, that's obviously a problem. Now, I don't have any public confirmation for that outside of these emails, which are basically talking about it, implying it. Once again, the same is true of Prince Andrew. Do you actually think these emails are about him actually seeing them, or is he just reporting on it? It's kind of hard to know, but I just want you to know what's out there. You also should know about the foreign governments that Epstein was working with. In one email, you have Jeffrey Epstein talking about advising a Russian ambassador. He says, Churkin was great. He understood Trump after our conversations. It's not complex. And Churkin was a Russian ambassador at the time until he died. And then you also have Israel. There are a bunch of public reports about Israel being implicated with Epstein, how spies stayed with him at the time, and some of them even met at Epstein's house. And then you also have some emails between Epstein and a UAE royal, a sultan. So Epstein was rubbing shoulders with the top cream of the crop of our society. I mean, I don't think that should come as a shock. We should also probably talk about Larry Summers. He was
so insane. That's why they don't want these files to be released, because he was buddy with all these people in these high positions who had all the power, all the money, like all that shit. So obviously, if they're associated with any of these, like if they're associated with any of these niggas, these files associated with any of these niggas, that's a terrible look on all of them. Because you are buddy with a guy who does some of the worst shit ever. Like, you buddy with a fucking supervillain ass nigga. So obviously that's gonna look bad on your report and all that.
Mogul donor gives Harvard more than money. And then he is in emails with Larry Summers, where Epstein tells him, when we meet, I will endeavor to mesmerize you with stories of DC. So wild. And then Larry Summers said, I am trying to figure out why American elite think if you murder your baby by beating and abandonment, it must be irrelevant to your admission at Harvard, but hit on a few women 10 years ago and can't work at a network or think tank. Do not repeat this insight. Oops. Now everybody has it. So there you go. I mean, that's a high-level snapshot of what we saw in this release. Lots of people being implicated in one way or another. It's quite varied. I mean, you know, some people you find out they've been playing a journalist but have been secretly running PR cover for Epstein, like well after, you know, you kind of knew he was implicated in a lot of this stuff. Other people like Clinton are catching strays on, you know, affairs that they were having. Trump gets a mixed bag where initially the implication that he was kind of given was revealed to be not quite correct, because they're talking about Virginia Giuffre, although it still is a mystery why he's behaving so strangely regarding Ghislaine Maxwell, why he's trying extensively to block the Epstein files. I'm not going to...
Yeah, because I'm 99.9% sure that Trump has something on those files that if it got released, he would be cooked. He'd be fried. He'd be washed. He'd be done away with, as you can speak. Like, all I'm basically saying that nigga most likely is a part of those files, man. Because if you have nothing to do with those files, you aren't going to be, oh, no, don't really, like, no, like, you don't care, like, because you have nothing to do with it. But, you know what I'm saying, Trump and friends most likely have something in those files that could fuck up a massive amount of their political power, their status, their reputation, all that shit. But, yeah, man, that's the end of this video. But that being said, it's your boy Jay. Stay healthy, stay wealthy, and stay blessed, and I'm out.